chapter 30. And the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, prophesy and say, Thus saith the Lord God, Wail you, woe worth the day, for the day is near, even the day of the Lord is near, a day of clouds. It shall be a time of the nations. And the sword shall come upon Egypt, and the convulsion shall be in Ethiopia, when the slain shall fall in Egypt, and they shall take away her abundance, and her foundation shall be broken down. Ethiopia, and Put, and Lud, and all the mingled people, and Cub, and the children of the land that is in the league, shall fall with them by the sword. Thus saith the Lord, They also that uphold Egypt shall fall, and the pride of her power shall come down. From Migdol to Syene shall they fall in it by the sword, saith the Lord God. And they shall be desolate in the midst of the countries that are desolate, and her cities shall be in the midst of the cities that are wasted. And they shall know that I am the Lord, when I have set a fire in Egypt, and all her helpers are destroyed. In that day shall messengers go forth from me in ships to make the confident Ethiopians afraid. And there shall come convulsions upon them in the day of Egypt. For lo, it comes. Thus saith the Lord God, I will also make the multitude of Egypt to cease, by the hand of Nebuchadrezzar king of Babylon. He and his people with him, the terrible of the nations, shall be brought in to destroy the land, and they shall draw their swords against Egypt, and fill the land with the slain. And I will make the rivers dry, and will give the land over into the hand of evil men. And I will make the land desolate, and all that is therein, by the hand of strangers. I, the Lord, have spoken it. Thus saith the Lord God, I will also destroy the idols. I will cause the things of naught to cease from Noph, and there shall be no more prince out of the land of Egypt. And I will put a fear in the land of Egypt, and I will make Pathros desolate, and will set a fire in Zoan, and will execute judgments in No, and I will pour my fury upon Sin, the stronghold of Egypt, and I will cut off the multitude of No, and I will set a fire in Egypt. Sin shall be a great convulsion, and No shall be rent asunder, and in No shall come adversaries in the daytime. The young men of Aven and Pibeseth shall fall by the sword, and these cities shall go into captivity. At Tachpenhes also the day shall withdraw itself, when I shall break there the yokes of Egypt, and the pride of her power shall cease in her. As for her, a cloud shall cover her, and her daughters shall go into captivity. Thus shall I execute judgments in Egypt. They shall know that I am the Lord. And it came to pass in the 11th year, in the 1st month, in the 7th day of the month, that the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, I have broken the arm of Pharaoh king of Egypt, and lo, it hath not been bound up to be healed, to put a roller, that it be bound up and wax strong, that it hold the sword. Therefore thus saith the Lord God, Behold, I am against Pharaoh king of Egypt, and I will break his arms, the strong and that which was broken, and I will cause the sword to fall out of his hand. And I will scatter the Egyptians among the nations, and will disperse them through the countries, and I will strengthen the arms of the king of Babylon, and put my sword in his hand. I will break the arms of Pharaoh, and he shall groan before him with the groanings of a deadly wounded man. And I will hold up the arms of the king of Babylon, and the arms of Pharaoh shall fall down, and they shall know that I am the Lord, when I shall put my sword into the hand of the king of Babylon, and he shall stretch it out upon the land of Egypt. And I will scatter the Egyptians among the nations, and disperse them through the countries, and they shall know that I am the Lord. All right. Let's go back up to verse 1. Now, yesterday we started out in the 10th year, in the 10th month, and with these prophecies of against the Pharaoh, this great house, who was the king of Egypt. That land of enclosures is what Egypt was. Egypt was, and they had many houses of enclosures at that time. Each one of these is like a high place to, and it is, and to a different understanding, or a different washing they use now to cover their sins. And that's what it all is a similitude of. Even these judgments that God had, these similitudes even. And he was using this one, and even in the 27th year now was where we had left on, making this great jump, see, in these prophecies, because they was aligned, these having to do with Pharaoh, this king of Egypt, even when God would send Nebuchadnezzar, the prophet who protects the crown, the king of confusion. He would be the one who would come in and take over this land of enclosures, as we're going to find out in this chapter. We'll pick it up in verse 1. And the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, and these words that are written, Son of man, prophesy and say, Thus saith the Lord God, Wail you, woe worth the day. Wail you, cry out, because woe now is the day. Woe worth this understanding even. Woe, because the understanding is to be a terror. The message is for a terror, because what God has done, God's shown himself magnificent in all the earth, as we're going to find out. Even those in the land of enclosures will see this. 3. For the day is near, even the day of the Lord is near, a day of clouds. It shall be a time of the nations, and this time of the nations, and this day of clouds, this understanding even now, these nations being as in King James it says heathen, or it used to say it's the Goy, and they refer to nations outside the nation that God chose, see, for the example he was making, that these other nations, even all the nations round about who God had given all the understandings of these not gods to worship, but unto the house of Israel, he said, You shall not do this. For the day, this understanding now, is near. Even the understanding of God is near. A understanding of all the confusions that God has put up in the earth, all these judgments even, that God has set upon all the other nations. And a sword shall come upon Egypt, and convulsion shall be in Ethiopia, when the slain shall fall in Egypt, and they shall take away her abundance, and her foundation shall be broken down. And the foundation was broken, and we're going to see this. The sword shall come upon Egypt. We're going to find out this is a great judgment. Anytime we hear the sword, it's a word. It's going to stand for even the words of these at the end time. This great sword, these words that come upon Egypt, even that land of enclosures. And this was that land of enclosures where the children of Israel were, and they was caused to serve now, even a great servitude, and it was all in symbolism of they was forced to serve these other understandings, not having a chance to have any. And convulsion shall be in Ethiopia. Ethiopia, the word here is Cush, and that refers to the darkness, and that's what it really represents. We're not talking about the flesh, but we're talking about an understanding. This being the other kingdom. We have one kingdom, this is a fleshful kingdom, and then we have another kingdom, and it's a kingdom of understanding and knowledge. See, and then in Ethiopia, this is the land of darkness, and those even of Egypt who are in this darkness. The darkness represents to those who are standing in the shadows of something. They have an image. They have another enclosure. They have been enclosed and are in the darkness, see, as if it is a prison house. And when the slain shall fall in Egypt, there'll be great shaking and convulsions in the land of darkness, these that have been shadowed, see, when God starts slaying in the house of enclosures. And they shall take away her abundance, and her foundation shall be broken. 5. Ethiopia, and Put, and Lud, and all the mingled people, and Kub, and the children of the land that is in a league, shall fall with them by the sword. Ethiopia, that land of darkness, see, that's what it refers to, the land of darkness. And Put and Lud. Put is if you remember, Put, it means bow, and it's that which they bend, and it's in the land of darkness. Even these laws that they bend of men, that they bend to use over you, something that they use against you, or used for purpose of war. Lewd, it's even that which they cause you to struggle by, or strife. It's the strife they've caused, these laws, these bending, these how they bend. We'll see there's more than one way to bend the law. See, there's a way to bend the law also to use against those who twist and bend the law for harm. All the mingled people, and all the mingled people represent those who were mingled even in the understandings they have. They're mingled in. They have every understanding blended all together, we'll see, to make an understanding. And Kub is a place that had an alliance with Egypt, and it represents those that city of alliance, and we remembered in the old prophecies, these of the association, and the children of the land that is in the league, and all these that belong to those who are in the league. And this league we'll find, is a league of darkness. It's the league of falsehood. It's the league of the understandings of men. It is the league that is established itself in idolatry shall fall with them by the sword. And this sword is the judgment of God, even according to the law. 6. Thus saith the Lord, they also that uphold Egypt shall fall, and the pride of her power shall come down. From Migdol to Syene shall they fall in it by the sword, saith the Lord God. And thus does the Lord God say, they also that uphold Egypt, all those that uphold that land of enclosures, that stand for it. We just talked about all those mingled people and their understandings, all those that have made a league, all of them are going to fall by the sword. And the pride of her power shall come down. That land of enclosures, that land of idolatry, that land of imagery, these enclosures men have made, all their understandings, that's what it represents. Migdol to Syene shall they fall in it by the sword, saith the Lord God. It's the judgment of God. See, the law of God comes through, and you're judged, and you fall one way or the other. It doesn't matter if you're in the tower. And that Migdol, Syene, we know where that is. That's that tower where she's covering her face. See, that's that high place where she hides herself. That high place where she hides herself there. 7. And they shall be desolate in the midst of the countries that are desolate, and her cities shall be in the midst of the cities that are wasted. And they shall be desolate in the midst of the countries that are desolate. Because God's going to make an example. We've been talking about this example, this land of enclosures, even from the beginning. See, God made an example back then of Egypt, the Pharaoh there, and had his people freed. See, God said, now, no longer that's going to be nothing, because I'm going to do this in all the earth. And God is making an example, see, in all the earth, exactly, of his work. And their cities are laid waste and made desolate. Every man, every place of their God, every place of their not a God, every place that they've set a watchman up over their little understandings are laid waste by the law of God in just one stroke. 8. And they shall know that I am the Lord, when I have set a fire in Egypt, and all her helpers are destroyed. And you will know who God is in that day, when he has set his judgment in that land of enclosures, and all her little helpers, their little busy bees that have been running around doing their evil work, are destroyed. God has put an end to it. See, and there will be silence in the land. 9. In that day shall messengers go forth from before me in ships to make the confident Ethiopians afraid, and there shall come convulsions upon them in the day of Egypt. For lo, it comes. And it comes, and this day, and in that understanding, see, that these messengers, these ones who have a message, who go forth before God in ships, these ships represent these vessels to travel upon the sea, to travel upon understanding, see, and these vessels that we can travel safely upon the sea is going to be the law of God. to make the confident Ethiopians afraid. And these confident Ethiopians, these ones who have built a confident place, and it represents that place of darkness. See, that place where she's hiding her face, even that high place, that tower. And there shall come convulsions upon them in the day of Egypt. And this convulsions is a great shaking because of the great fear in the understanding that God has come to destroy that land of enclosures. For it does come. See, and this would be understanding now, even of the law coming in. 10. Thus saith the Lord God, I will also make the multitude of Egypt to cease by the hand of Nebuchadrezzar, the king of Babylon. Thus saith the Lord God, I will also make the multitude of that land of enclosures, the multitude, all these houses, all these enclosures which they have made, the multitude of them, to cease by the works of Nebuchadrezzar, the king of Babylon. Now by the works of this prophet that protects the crown, he is the king of confusion. By his works shall the multitude of the land of enclosures cease, because the one giant prison house, 11, he and his people with him, the terrible of the nations, shall be brought in to destroy the land, and they shall draw their swords against Egypt, and fill the land with the slain. He and his people, this king of Nebuchadrezzar, this king of Babylon, this king of confusion, Nebuchadrezzar, he and his people with him, the terrible of the nations, these horrible ones, these ones of great confusion, shall be brought in to destroy the land. And that is exactly what happened. And they shall draw their swords against Egypt. And these swords, these judgments against this land of enclosures, we're going to find out that he is going to take over and fill the land with the slain. And they will judge all these not of gods in that land, and they will fill that with their slain. 12. And I will make the rivers dry, and will give the land over into the hand of evil men, and I will make the land desolate, and all that is therein, by the hand of strangers. I, the Lord, has spoken it, and God done it, and it is done. And I will make the rivers dry, their understanding shall dry up. And these understandings represented all these not of gods that they had made over these little houses of enclosures, each one having their priest and their prophets, and will give the land over into the hand of evil men, and over into the works of these evil men, even these foolish men. And that's exactly what God did. And I will make the land desolate, and all that is therein, by the hand of strangers, even foreigners, these ones that would come in from Babylon, and take over and conquer even the land of Egypt, this land of enclosures. And confusion was over the land of enclosures the whole time. 13. Thus saith the Lord God, I will also destroy the idols, and I will cause the things of naught to cease from Noph, and there shall be no more prince out of the land of Egypt. And I will put a fear in the land of Egypt. And this great fear in the land of enclosures, this will be God himself, this what you will fear, because God has done this. God has cut you off. Thus saith the Lord God, I will destroy the idols. Who's going to destroy them? I will, God said. Destroy their idols, all their images, all these understandings that men have made, and I will cause the things of naught to cease from Noph. And these things that are worthless, see, we'll find a little more about this worthless, these things that are worthless to cease from Noph. And Noph is that place of presentability. Noph was another name for Memphis, that haven of good. There shall be no more prince out of the land of Egypt. No more prince. No more king's sons coming up out of that land of enclosures. 14. And I will make Pathros desolate, and I will set a fire in Zoan, and will execute judgments in No. And I will make Pathros desolate. We remember Pathros. It's that southern portion of the northern kingdom of Egypt. It's that place God parched a long time ago in the land of judgments. He's going to make it desolate, and it will set a fire in Zoan. Zoan is that place of departure. He's going to set judgment in that place of departure. We've talked about that place of departure a long time ago. That's where they turned their back on God. That's where they turned from God. Somebody turned them there. They went the wrong way there, where the road forked, not choosing the correct way. See, you went the wrong way. Even that place where the prophets say, turn, and will execute judgments in No. And these judgments in No is when God brings his law through. God bringing his law through these judgments, these punishments, even, that we've talked about in the earth, see, in the land of No. And that is in the place where they disrupt. They have disrupted God. They have disrupted the work of God, opening their mouth to all these images, having no understanding. But we'll find, see, it's the great work of God that he has done, even from the beginning. 15. And I will pour my fury upon Sin, the stronghold of Egypt, and will cut off the multitude of No. And God, we've just mentioned No, that's that place of disruption. God's going to cut off the multitudes of No, the many of No, these many that disrupt. God's cutting them off. Well, these are the ones that stand up there running their mouth, that took that authority upon themselves, having not been lawfully bound to it. And I will pour my fury, my great anger, upon Sin. It's a coincidence that sin is seen, but it means thorn. This thorn, and this what it is, and there was a great mountain of thorns, and these thorns from the beginning have represented even these nations that was still in the land that they left, that Joshua left in the land. Not so much Joshua as the whole house of Israel did, leaving the land. God said, you shall not do this. And it began then, and the covenants were being made, and God said, you shall not do this. And they began to go against God's law. And God said then what was going to happen, and we see that's exactly what happens. But we'll find that God has spent his fury out now upon those thorns. And that's what it's about, those nations. It's known as this time of the nations, where God's punishing the nations, see. They laughed and giggled when God punished Judah and Israel, see, not understanding the great strength and power of God. That's the stronghold, that place of the thorns. That's the great stronghold of Egypt. And because it represents all the understandings of men that was all mingled in. 16. And I will set a fire in Egypt. Sin shall be in great convulsion, and No shall be rent asunder, and No shall become, and in No shall come adversaries in the daytime. And I will set a fire, I will set judgment in the land of enclosures. That land of, this is a place God's been using an example for millenniums. Sin shall be a great convulsion. Sin, once again, that place of thorns, all that thorns, all these nations that are round about, when they understand the magnificent power of God, that's what you're dealing with. You're contending with God and his law and his understanding. See, and you're going to be found in great convulsions. No shall be rent asunder. That place of disruption, that disrupting ones even, are going to be torn and ripped apart. God's done spoken from the beginning. And in No shall come adversaries in the daytime. No, that place of presentability, that place that they look upon, that high place they've made for themselves, that haven of good. Shall come their adversaries, these ones that are against them, in the daytime, in that period of understanding. 17. The young men of Avon and of Pibeseth shall fall by the sword, and these cities shall go into captivity. And all them cities shall go into captivity. These young men represent those ones, they got a lot of strength, but they just got no experience and no understanding to organize their strength. They shall fall by the sword. And in these young men of Avon, that's that waste. See, that's what it is. It's just a waste, too. These young men falling like this, because this waste here, this Avon, refers to a fruit now that's at the top of the branches. It's way up there, and you just can't reach it. It's really no good for nothing. And of Piboseth, this Piboseth, the Piboseth's a mouse of disgust. And even if you did reach it and put it in your mouth, it's disgusting in your mouth. Why? Because it's really just no good. It's young and it has not ripened. 18, at Tachpenches, also the day shall withdraw itself. This day shall withdraw itself, this understanding that withdraws itself, all these imageries at Tachpenches, that's that place of pity. Remember, we talked about that. That's the place where they literally fill their hands with pity. They'll fill their works with pity. Everything they do's with pity. Here's a cookie. Here's a pillow. We feel sorry for you. See, even there the understanding shall withdraw itself, that when I shall break the yokes of Egypt, when I shall break these yokes, these burdens that they put upon you there in the land of enclosures, these yokes represent that which you pull by. It's a yoke that's put upon your shoulders. It's a work you've caused to do, something they've caused you to serve in. And the pride of her power shall cease in her. The pride of her power, she shall have no more power. She will find that she is brought down. As for her, there's a feminine here. A cloud shall cover her. A great confusion is covering her, and her daughters shall go into captivity. There's going to be no understanding for her and what's going on. Her daughters represent those ones that she brought forth, these feminines that she hoped would bring forth sons and daughters to her. 19. Thus will I execute judgments in Egypt, and they shall know that I am the Lord. This is how I will execute judgments. This is what I will do to Egypt, that land of enclosures. And they shall know that I am the Lord. They shall know who God is in that day. 20. And it came to pass in the 11th year, in the first month, in the 7th day of the month, the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, and it came to pass in the 11th year, and the 11th year is when the law begins to have a greater understanding, and it's in the first month, in the beginning of that period of lesser light, in the 7th day, or the accomplishment, the completion, the perfection of understanding of the lesser light, that the word of the Lord come unto me, saying, 21, Son of man, I have broken the arm of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and lo, it has not been bound up to be healed, to put a roller that it be bound up, and wax strong, that it hold the sword. Son of man, those that can hear, those that listen, those that have the word from the beginning, God has broken the arm, God has broken the strength even of Pharaoh, this king of Egypt, this great house that rules over the land of enclosures, and lo, it is not been bound up to be healed, to put a roller, that it be bound up and wax strong. It ain't nobody has tried to bandage it up, this great house of all these not of gods. This is a witness. See, God had said he was going to do away with all that, and he did. That it hold the sword. He has no ability any longer to bring judgments upon the earth. See, God did that to Egypt. God did that to the land of enclosures. And we're going to find out how. 22. Therefore thus saith the Lord God, Behold, I am against Pharaoh king of Egypt, and will break his arms, the strong, and that which was broken, and will cause the sword to fall out of his hand. Therefore thus saith the Lord God, Behold, watch and see and look, I am against Pharaoh king of Egypt. I am against that great house, this king of Egypt, this one who rules over the land of enclosures, and I will break his arms, both of them, we'll find out, the strong and that which was broken. He had done broken one arm, his arm of strength, that he couldn't hold his sword, the strong and that which was broken, his ability to be a witness in the earth, we'll find out, see, because that is that which wasn't healed up. And I will cause the sword to fall out of his hand, this sword that he had been given to bring judgment in the earth for as the millenniums of time. 23. And I will scatter the Egyptians among the nations, and will disperse them through the countries. And God did scatter all these of the land enclosures among all the nations, even all these ones of heathen, because these are the ones that did love it so, and I will disperse them through the countries. 24. And I will strengthen the arms of the king of Babylon, and put my sword in his hand. But I will break the arms of Pharaoh, and he shall groan before him with the groanings of a deadly wounded man. And God will break the powers and the strengths of this Pharaoh, the king of the land of many enclosures, and that's what Egypt represented. That land of enclosures is a plural. The many enclosures that was in the Pharaoh's house even. And he shall groan before him as a deadly wounded man, like somebody who has been wounded deadly, even the one who used to be over all the not of gods, being in a plural sense. And God has strengthened the arms, strengthened the abilities of the king of confusion. And he has put his judgment now in his hand. And we'll find out what king of Babylon builds when we get there into the kingdom of Babylon. 25. And I will hold up the arms of the king of Babylon, and the arms of Pharaoh shall fall down, and they shall know that I am the Lord, when I shall put my sword into the hand of the king of Babylon, and he shall stretch it upon the land of Egypt. And I will hold up the arms, I will hold up the strength of the king of confusion, and the arms of the great house shall fall down, and they shall know that I am the Lord. And by this they should know who God is. See, this is the little work God did as well. He destroyed out the house of many gods, and he established in the hand now this sword into the king of confusion. And that's what it is. And he shall put my sword, and when I shall put my sword into the hand of the king of confusion, and I put my judgment into the works of this king of confusion, even Nebuchadrezzar. 26. And I will scatter the Egyptians among the nations, and disperse them through the countries, and they shall know that I am the Lord. And I will scatter the Egyptians, all these ones of the land of enclosures, these ones that used to go into the house of many understandings among the nations, among the heathen, and among the Goe, those ones who can't hear. They will see, God gave them in the beginning all these not of gods. But unto Israel, those that could hear, those that do contend with the mighty one, he did not turn and return. Let's move on to chapter 31.